Hi, Chip Dornell ahead on the left. I thought while covering this series on race, it would be a good idea, instead of just launching into topics, it would be good to take this opportunity to answer some viewer mail. The only problem is I don't get any viewer mail. So I've solved that by concocting my own letter, which is based on things that I hear and questions being raised in the media. And with that, let's start. Dear Black African American Chip, I'm not a racist, but all this talk about racism, I've been turned down for a job that a black person got. I also see other white people being turned down in favor of black people as well. How does this happen if racism is such a problem? Signed, Just Curious. Thank you for your letter, Just Curious, because this actually comes up quite often when we try to discuss race. And your letter actually gives me an opportunity to cover some other related areas. And hopefully we can tie it all together. Yes, Just Curious, black people do get jobs, and we should all be happy about that, right? Because a rising tide lifts all boats. We've all heard that. And sometimes black people do get hired over white people. But we shouldn't be distressed about this. Now, unfortunately, there are some people, I'm not saying you, when they see a black person being hired over a white person, they assume that the black person only got the job because they were black and that they're unqualified. White people should get jobs. Black people should get jobs if there's no other white person for the job. We can consider those people, and I know it's a tough term, as white supremacists. Not the front of the brain white supremacists, but the back of the brain supremacists, the ones that expect a little priority. Maybe you know some people like that. I'm not saying that every black person is great at what they do. Incompetence comes in all colors of the rainbow. We've all worked with incompetent white people. I'm going to recount a story that happened back in 2013. And in 2013, Jim DeMint, who was a Republican senator from South Carolina, resigned so he could head the Heritage Foundation. So it fell in the hands of the Republican governor of South Carolina to name a replacement. She named an African-American Republican by the name of Tim Scott. And when she made the announcement, she kept repeating, Tim Scott earned this position.
And it is very important to me, as a minority female, that Congressman Scott earned this seat. He earned this seat for the person that he is. He earned this seat for the results he has shown. He earned this seat.
She knew that among her Republican base in South Carolina, a lot of people would see Tim Scott's face, even though he was somewhat high profile in the state, already being a representative in a district, that maybe he was unqualified for the position. So she knew she had to give that qualification to Tim Scott before naming him. Further, Tim Scott spoke on the Senate floor of being stopped by law enforcement 7 times as an elected official.
In the course of 1 year, I've been stopped 7 times by law enforcement officers. Not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 times in 1 year as an elected official. Was I speeding sometimes? Sure. But the vast majority of the time, I was pulled over for nothing more than driving a new car in the wrong neighborhood or some other reason just as trivial.
And he's a conservative. I also want to address another idea that floats around the conservative community. I'm going to read it in this quote here. We've got this tailspin of culture in our inner cities, in particular of men not working and just generations of men not even thinking about working or learning the value in the culture of work. Those words were spoken by Republican, at the time he was the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, Paul Ryan. He's now the Speaker of the House. He apologized for those statements, but it reinforces an idea that black people are lazy. And there are problems in the inner cities, and they're way more complex than what Paul Ryan described there. Many of the jobs that are available to inner city workers are minimum wage jobs. And when minimum wage earners demand a more livable wage, what are they told? Maybe you should find a better job. Make opportunity for yourself. So just curious. When black people don't work, they're lazy. If they work at a job and they need a raise, they should get a better job. When they get a better job, they're taking jobs away from white people. So I ask you, does racism still exist?